Alrighty. Excellent. Excellent. Just drop this down to there. Alright, and we can go ahead and get started in just a second. Just make sure I have all my colors worked out. I believe I do. Got all that worked out. Alright, we can begin. So today I'm painting some Cursed City zombies. These are the same zombies that I did in my 24-hour paint of the Cursed City box, if you saw that. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Starting off with Plaguebearer Flesh. And this is just going to be on their skin. And it can be messy because all the other colors we're going to use after this are darker and we'll cover it up no problem. And we're going to do both of these models at once because they're really quick. So I figured we could knock two out at once. And it'll give you an idea of how to paint the male or the female ones. And they do have some different details on them, so I think that'll work well. Alrighty, there we go. That one's done. On to the next one. She's got a little less skin than the dude because she's wearing a dress, but still has enough to make it recognizable. Sometimes miniatures will just have so little of something that it's not even worth bothering with, really. You just blend it into something else, but not the case here. That back of her knee here. And we're all set. Alrighty. We'll go on now to, just going to do something really quick because it only needs to go on the one miniature. Just going to use some Skeleton Horde to do the parchment on hanging on this guy's stake up here, whatever it is. That'll on a little thick. Just gonna bring some of it back off. There we go. Alrighty. Like I said, that was only on the one miniature, so I'll just knock that out really quick. And we will go on. So I'm going to move on to doing his pants. And I'm going to do that in snakebite leather. Alrighty. So I'm just going to do his pants in this color. When I did the other ones, I just kind of picked a bunch of random colors and alternated them around just so it looked like, you know, random members of the city had been turned into zombies. There we go. There's his pants done. Now I'm going to do her dress, but I'm going to do that in Blood Angel's Red, just to give some nice color to the model. Just want to try to avoid all the green that I laid down. So this red will cover right over that green. Everything else, though, is going to be painted with layer paint, so we don't have to be as careful. Just making sure to not nick any of the green here. I see a spot where I have to touch up the green anyway, because I left some primer showing, so we'll come back to that momentarily. Alright, there we go. Like I said, I'm just going to grab the green back and fix the back of her hand that I forgot to get here. There we go. Alrighty. Excellent. So now I'm going to get Wildwood, and I'm going to do her hair. There's nothing on him that needs to be this color. I don't think. I'll double check. Nope, he doesn't have hair or anything. Actually, I'll do the inside of his mouth in this color. And then I'll come back later. That'll work. Alright, so now we're done with the contrast portion of this endeavor. So now I'm going to get some Gorthor Brown. And I'm just going to paint in all the wood. So that'll be the plank that's here, as well as the trees sticking up and the stakes that are in the ground. Just make sure to get all the bits down here. And then there's also some roots growing through him that we need to get as well. First time I painted these guys, I missed so many spots. Because I missed all this stuff growing through him. This guy's actually got 2 stakes going through him, not just one. And then also this root. Alrighty. Then there's another root here. This is what I'm talking about. I kept missing stuff like this. There we go. Alright. That looks good. Now we'll just do the same thing on her. I'll start down here with this stuff. There we go. And then all of this. She's got a necklace hanging there around her neck, so we don't need to paint that in this wooden color. Got a root growing there. Just making sure I got all sides of the roots. And then there's some wood going up here. And fill all this in with this color as well. Alright, so there's that done for her. Rinse the brush off. And now, let's see, we'll go into some Dawnstone now. This will just be on her. She's the only one with the tombstone in this case. Oh, I just realized I forgot some wood on her. The stake in the back of the tombstone needs to be brown, so we'll do that right after I do the gray. Alright. So that's the gray done. I'll just grab my Gorthor brown back. Do this slight touch up. There we go. Alright, now we'll go on to some silver. That's going to be all the jewelry or restraining equipment on them. So this thing around their wrists, the manacles, will get silvered. There's like maybe a lock from the coffin they were in. That'll be silver. I'm very busy right now. Realtor on Friday. Sorry, I love you. Also first, I don't care. Well done. Well done. Alright, just get the back of the manacle here. And again, I just straight up missed a root on this guy. You just grab that real quick. Don't know what I'm doing. Struggling, apparently. There we go. Alright. Yeah, all the silver's done on him. So we'll go back to silver for this lady over here. She's got some bracelets. And this is the kind of paint job that's going to look pretty terrible until the end. The last step sort of ties it all together. Just got a necklace there. A bracelet here. And you also have to think that these miniatures are going to be in piles of up to 60 in the current rules. So any great amount of detail on them will be more or less wasted, in my opinion. So we don't have to go nuts on them. Alright, then we'll do the rope that hangs around his neck. We'll do that. What color is this? Xanadry Dust. There we go. Excellent. And then we'll do a unique detail on her, which is the candles sitting in front of her. Dusty rope makes sense. It's true. Especially on a zombie. Do the candles on her, or in front of her tombstone real quick. And this is just Screaming Skull. Alright, get that out of here. And now we'll do Warbaw screen for the grass and stuff. 3-foot test is king for horde minis, in my opinion. You're good. Yeah, I agree. 3-foot test is indeed the best for miniatures that are going to be next to a bunch of their buddies. So I'm just doing the grasses in Warbaw screen. That's all the grass on her. Do the grass on him now. Yeah, alright, good. That's that. So then, these zombies go quick. I mean, I knew they went quick, but went even quicker than I thought. So I'm going to take some Uriel Yellow and just plunk in their eyes. Just being careful not to hit their skin. And I'm actually going to do one more step. I didn't do this in the 24-hour paint because I was just trying to get them done. But I'm going to add one more step to these guys. And that's going to be to take some Magos Purple, if I can find it. It's somewhere here. That's Volupus Pink. Magos Purple, here we go. Magos Purple. And I'm just going to put this in all the places where their skin is missing. So here on the side of her face, like that. Let's see. She may not have anywhere else where that's the case. Nope. He's got some, though, on his head. He's actually got some all over him, so just going to fill this in with this purple. It'll just sort of help the the rotted flesh look that we're going for here. Sort of like gangrenous or partially rotted or sored skin or something. Some disgusting something like that. That's what we're going for. So just fill it in on all these little details. And if you go over like that, it doesn't really matter. It'll just blend into the skin later. Alright. So then, with my newfound power of mute, I'm going to mute and use the Revlon hairdryer to give these guys a good dry before I put the ink on. So let's do that real quick. All right. It's like watching a silent film, but in color. Yes, exactly. All right, so now we're going to take, first of all, a bigger brush and some Nuln Oil and slap it all over these guys. I'll actually start with her since I painted him more recently. And a lot of the time, a one-size-fits-all wash like this is not the greatest way to paint miniatures. Nothing against it, but just usually doesn't work for some things. But zombies is one of those times where just get them all washed the same and it'll be fine. Just make sure it's gotten everywhere and make sure it's not pooling too heavily in any one spot. And we'll be good to go. Move on to the next one. And with very intricate models like this, I like to stab the brush into the miniature instead of just wiping to make sure that the ink or the wash gets down into all the little crevices, because that's where it's supposed to be after all. It will sit on the surface some, but we specifically need it down in the crevices. Alright, I'm just going to rinse my brush off now, dry it off mostly, and then just come in and tap and make sure there's not too much pooling in any one spot. Good. And then double check her as well. Alright. Then we'll go back to the silent color film and dry them. All right, and then after I've dried them for a little bit, I'll take my completely dry brush and then just come in and tap some of the spots that aren't quite dry yet, that maybe are pulled too much, and that'll just pull some of that out of there. And then I'll just let that air dry naturally. All right, so now we can go into the basing. So I'm just going to grab my basing box real quick. Here it is. I think I've explained this before, but basically, whenever I base anything, if I'm using gravel or hobby sand or pigment powder or cork, I do it over this box so everything goes in the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is just apply some super glue to the bases of these guys and then just kind of swish them around in there. That'll give me a nice varied texture on their bases. So I'll start with her. Just going to apply some super glue. It doesn't have to have perfect coverage, just some around the base so that we get stuff sticking to it. And then, like I said, just swish it around. Get some bigger stuff, some smaller stuff. And there we go. Now we have some varied texture. If the camera would focus, there we go. Some varied texture on the ground. We'll do the same thing with him. Swish it around in here. Tap off any stuff that isn't quite stuck down properly. That seems to be stuck pretty good. Tap it off. Alright, and then we're good. Put this away. And then we'll go back to the blow dryer, because if we start painting this immediately, there could be some wet super glue on the base, and nothing ruins a brush faster than super glue. So the drying shall commence. Alright, that should be good enough, hopefully. And I'm just going to pop them back in here. And we'll take some Cygor Brown and put this all over the bases. So I just want to make sure that I get this down into all the crevices of the sand and gravel. We might be able to correct it if we missed a spot on the next step, but try to get as much work done in the previous steps as you can. At least that's my philosophy. If you don't even cause mistakes in the first place, you won't have to spend time correcting them later. But also, if you can correct multiple mistakes in one step, take advantage of that instead of having to spread the corrections out across multiple steps. Just getting it all down in there. Good. And we'll do the same for him. You can also, if you want to have not as much variance with your texture, just use like pigment powder and hobby sand, or even just hobby sand or something. Baking powder works just fine, because then you won't have to worry about getting the paint down in the texture as much, because it will be more even across the whole thing. But with the bits of cork and stuff, you really got to make sure you get your ink flowing down into the base, which is why I use the contrast paint, because it's much thinner and will go down in there much easier. If If you had a more consistent texture on the base, you could get away with a layer paint, because you wouldn't need to go down into any crevices. Get that piece right there and there. Alright, so there's him. Now I'm going to take some, close this paint, I'm going to take some Deathguard Green and Mournfang Brown, and I'm going to take a crappy brush, like that. I'm going to start with the Deathguard Green. I'm just going to tap my brush into them, or into it, tap some off on the paper towel, and then just come in and do this. Just get flecks of this color around the base, like that. Do the next one. Just kind of mix it around if you get too much of one color on there. There we go. Rinse the brush off. And do the same thing with our Mournfang Brown. Make sure it's nice and clean. Probably doesn't really matter, but tap it in the Mournfang Brown, off on the paper towel, and then just a couple spots around each base. That'll do. Wipe off your mistake off this woman's hair real quick. Wonderful. Alright, and then we'll just grab some tufts. Just going to grab some with a pair of tweezers here. And put a little dollop of super glue on the bottom. Then I'll do about 2 per base usually. Stick that down in there. Grab another one. Try to do 2 per base just to conserve the tufts, but also you don't want the base completely covered in them. Sometimes. I agree, Harris. I agree. Alright. Grab another tuft here. And then one more on the back of this one. Maybe right in there. I always try, if I'm going to put just a couple tufts, to at least put them on opposite sides of the miniature, so from either direction you can see at least one. And there we go, those are in. And now the final step, just going to cap my glue, get the Cygor Brown, knock your miniatures over, that's the next step, get the Cygor Brown back out, pop these guys off their stands, or off their handles, and I'm just going to paint the base rims. I'm doing this just in Cygor Brown, same as what we did the basing in. That's what I did on when I painted the other ones for speed reasons, but now I'm just painting them to match the others. So. And in just a second here, I'm going to grab some of the previous ones I painted and see how well I matched it. That's the goal, is to not be able to tell which ones came from which painting. So, let's get a couple zombies over here. Here we go. Same pose even. This one's wet, obviously, but I think if you put them down next to each other, no one would be able to tell, unless they watch the stream, obviously. No one would be able to tell which one was painted 5 days ago and which one was painted today. So that's the goal. Let me just double check. Double check this guy. Different pose, but yep, I'd say they match. This works for me. All right, so that'll do it. Thank you everybody for watching. I will lost my train of thought is what I will be doing. What I was going to say is I'll be posting a video tomorrow, which is basically kind of like a stream, except I just didn't do it live, with a tutorial on how I paint my skeletons, which is right here. So look forward to that, or, don't look forward to it. That's fine too. Whatever you want. But I hope you will check it out. Thank you everybody for watching. I'll be back here streaming at 1 o'clock on Friday afternoon. See you then.